Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/usingyourpower. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, and MP3 player.
Welcome to Using Your Power. I'm David Andrew Wiebe, and joining me is
Maveen, Kaura.
How you doing, Mav?
Ma'am, good. David, how are you?
I'm powered up, man.
Awesome, man. So this is our second episode that we're going to do and try to do within the next 15 to 20 minutes.
Rapid fire, man.
Yeah, it's been good. I think the first one was really good. I think we felt good about it, and we got all the points we want out of it. So let's see if we can do something like that again.
That's what we're going to do. So I wanted to talk about 10 bad deals we've been roped into. Obviously, we're going to try and share 5 each. My first was trading services with a videographer for a website. I was building his website, and he was the videographer, and he did some vlogs for me. Now, he only did a limited number of vlogs, and I assume, video services can be way more expensive than doing a website. But then when I started doing the website, and I was the pro, I was doing the graphics, I was doing the website, and I even had a graphic design business at the time. So I knew what I was doing, but then he just requested endless changes and he wasn't happy with any design, and that relationship ultimately just didn't go well. And I said, look, I've already offered you this amount of services, I already rendered this many hours. I'm not going to continue on this project. And that's pretty much the end of that story.
Wow, and that was the last of that, eh?
Yeah, it was the last of that.
Crazy. So I guess the one thing that I know, I've invested money with the banks, and I think a lot of people listening to the show have invested money with the banks.
Oh, man.
I've got a lot of money invested in mutual funds and stuff. I'm not saying a lot because I'm not lots in like 6 figures or anything like that, but it's a lot to me. And, just realizing how much investment fees that the banks actually take on mutual funds, they take it off the top, they don't take it off the profits, right? So I just think, although I do have my money in mutual funds, don't really know where to put it quite yet, that having my money invested with the banks right now is really is a bad deal because they make all the money and I have to take all the risk.
Bad investments is something we've all done, so I can totally relate to that. I even kind of left out some of those examples just because I didn't feel like they were the worst things in the world. They were the kind of the learning experiences, but I agree with you. You can't just put your money into the bank and trust them with all of it. It doesn't work.
No, fair enough.
My next point was like keeping a photographer as a client. Seems like there's a theme here with photographers and videographers, but there was this photographer that, we set up the website for him and we did the domain registration for him and we renewed all his services and everything every year. But every single year he would ask the same questions. Why are you charging so much? Why do I have to renew? What am I paying for? And finally, I just tacked on a $60 charge on top of everything else because I said, this is my time and I can't waste so much time. And then he comes back and asks me, what's the $60 charge for? And I said, look, my time's not free. Every single year when you want to renew, you're asking me the same questions and I'm answering them every single time, and that's requiring my time. So sorry, and that relationship ended because he was obviously not willing and he's just a cheapskate.
How long did that go on for before you charged him?
Probably 3-4 years.
Wow. So after that you said, we got to kind of do something else, or you got to try to understand a little bit faster.
Yeah, exactly, because the process had already been done, so hopefully by now you know what we're up to.
Exactly. So awesome. So one of the things I know, again, I try to think about bad deals that I've been roped into, and maybe some stuff other people have gone into as well. And I think fitness equipment is sometimes a bad deal that we all got ourselves into because we go out there, we buy the weights, we buy a Bowflex, or we buy the latest gadget that's out there, the newest videos by Sean T or Tony Horton for P90X, whatever. But then we buy it, we maybe do it a couple times, and then we put it on the shelf. So I think the marketing that the TVs does is so great that we get roped into buying things that we really don't need for products. So I think one of the things for myself too is I know I've brought fitness equipment that's still sitting in my room, and maybe one day after doing this podcast I'll actually start using it now.
There's a lot of as seen on TV stuff, right? So you can even go into those as seen on TV stores and kind of check some of that out, which is probably the best way to not just buy into it immediately, is to go and look at it first and see what the quality's like.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. my next thing was just buying Photoshop on eBay. Now,
Man, why would you do that?
Exactly. We were getting our graphic design company up and started, and we said, well, Photoshop's going to be about $700. Maybe it was about maybe even $900, but like we wanted to buy Photoshop, and then that's all we needed to get our business started. So awesome. Maybe we could save some money on that by buying the Photoshop on eBay. And somebody sent us a burnt copy when we won the bid for it, and so it was just like, oh, you know what? We're just gonna bite the bullet. We spent $100 on that, cheap burnt copy or whatever it was, and it was like, okay, we're just gonna buy Photoshop for real now.
There you go. So pretty hard lesson to learn, but I think a good lesson to learn is sometimes what you think you're getting a good deal, it's not necessarily the best deal. So how does that statement go? If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
You got it.
Yeah. All right, man. So one of the other things, I think that I got into was an investment when I was pretty young, right? So a friend's dad walked up to us, and pretty exciting because this was when the internet was still pretty new to me, at least. He was saying, they were going to start they needed a $400 investment. They're going to start up a website, where you could call people. So actually, it's very similar to, if anybody's ever heard of Angie's List. It's actually exactly the same concept, but he had thought about this 10 years prior, and invest $400 with me today, and we'll be able to grow that, and I'll give you your return on it. So we ended up giving him $400, and that went nowhere. So I always wonder what happened to my money. I never bring it up. I still know the guy, but you know what? I learned not to do business with people that I shouldn't be doing business with.
It made me think of an example that's not on my list, but I ended up buying a car that was a total lemon and just driving into the ground. So, it took me a couple thousand kilometers or something like that, or maybe a little bit more than that, but it just wasn't worth the $2,000 I originally spent on the car, because it didn't even drive during winter, which is what you needed it for in Calgary.
Yeah, you need a car in winter for sure in Calgary.
Exactly.
One of the things, I don't know if it's a bad thing I've been roped into, but I think we've all been in bad relationships where they do start really good, and they start positive and they start fun. I think the two people, because they're so new to that relationship, this is an attraction to them, and they get brought in, and things happen. And as you start getting comfortable and more comfortable with somebody else, not saying that I'm perfect, but things happen, and you end up fighting quite a bit, and you end up being in a relationship that's not really conducive to you being successful or having a successful mindset. So I know, not that I was roped into it, obviously it was a choice I made, but I think everything that we do is a choice we make.
Yes.
But my choice of staying there for that long was probably something I shouldn't have done.
And it's also why people break up. I mean, somewhere down the line, somebody decides this is not a good deal for me, so let's move on, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And then another eBay purchase that I shouldn't have made was actually buying a guitar on eBay. I mean, you could probably think of reasons why that's a bad idea right off the bat, but like something that you don't try and you don't know what it's like. I bought this guitar. I tried to make it my mod guitar so I could mod it out and put my own pickups in it and put my own stuff in it, and it just wasn't worth my time. The frets were so sharp, the neck wasn't adjusted correctly. The Floyd Rose bridge, which I thought was a Floyd Rose bridge, actually was a Floyd Ridzi bridge. It was RDSE, and I didn't notice that. And so there was just so many things wrong with it. I ended up selling it anyway and not using it very much at all.
Did you at least get your money out of it?
I guess you could say I did.
Yeah, okay, good.
Because I'm shrewd.
And because I know my wife's bought some stuff on eBay as well, or on some other websites, and try to sell them on eBay. But it's exactly what happens. Clothing is a prime example. You see these things, and you see them on dummies on these websites, and it looks like it's going to fit you. They tell you the measurements, and you get it back, and it's in UK, or it's in a different size standard that we're not using here in Canada or the US, right? So I just little things to be wary of. So you kind of reminded me of buying stuff on eBay and buying stuff on internets as well. So
always
just know what you're buying.
Yeah, you always have to look at the fine print, because sometimes the details are in there and people just don't know them, and then end up spending thousands of dollars on like a photo of a thing that they were trying to buy.
Yeah, I've seen that happen and heard stories like that. So
yeah,
and that's hundreds of dollars gone, right? And these guys, although you're giving them a bad rating, well, what difference does it make? Because they've got your money, and they don't really care about the bad rating, because they can always start another PayPal account on eBay.
Yeah, sometimes there's no recourse. So unfortunately, you might have just been roped into it, and there's no way out of it.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess my example here is, I think something that we've talked about in a lot of detail over the last episodes here, 30 plus episodes. But, going into network marketing, I think was one thing that I got roped into. Not the fact that I went into network marketing. I think being in network marketing was actually a really good, positive experience from everything I learned. But, the one statement that really, I think, tags you in is that, in the next 2 to 5 years, you can make six-figure income, 150,000 plus. And I think that's that tagline that really roped me in and brought me in, because not only was I really after the money, but I said, hey, you know what, if I can make six figures the next 2 to 5 years and on a 10-hour commitment per week, it goes back to that statement, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? But that's kind of what I went with and I went into, and I think a lot of people do go into network marketing businesses on that belief that, in 2 to 5 years, I'll be, making six figures.
Business education is expensive, right? And I can totally relate to that point. And I also feel that, there was definitely some great things that came out of network marketing. I learned how to handle my money. That was the number one thing. And I've taken that with me ever since, and I've done much better, and I've been able to multiply my income and all that kind of stuff. So that was great. But ultimately, as a business model, it wasn't necessarily the right thing for me. And it just isn't the right thing for some people. Ultimately, I think we even covered that pretty well in our episode on network marketing.
Yeah, we did. And, if they had told me, I think at the starting that it's going to take you maybe 2 to 5 years to get to the point where you're starting at zero, because we got to, re-educate your mind. And so we can now then do the proper education that next 2 to 5 years, you'll actually break even. If they had actually been upfront and honest with me and said, this may take me up to 10 years or longer, it could take 2 years, absolutely. Maybe I didn't have as much changing to do. But because some of that information was not given to me, of course I joined. If they had maybe given me that information, maybe I wouldn't have joined, I guess.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, there was a business that I put 60K into as well, or nearly 60K. It turned out that business kind of went under. But the thing that you and I discussed there, Mav, was just that, I took out a second mortgage to do it. So in reality, it was kind of money that I didn't have, because I ended up selling my house and kind of getting all that back. And I was also working as a contractor for the business. So in a weird way, I ended up earning money. That's really weird.
Earning money on a business that went sideways.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but that's how we figured it out. And I agreed with you. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, well, it's the only way you could look at it at that point, right? I think it was really tough to look at it any other way, because, if anything you invest $60,000 into that you believe was going to go somewhere and then you lose money on it, yeah, it's hard, and you could try to get it through taxes. I think we talked about that, trying to get some of that money, recouping it back through taxes, and see if there was a way, you can do something. I know there was other stuff that you had tried or talked about, some recourses, but when the company keeps borrowing more money, or they just keep borrowing more money and then making those shares worth less and less money, it keeps taking money out of your pocket as well. So eventually, even if they had launched, your shares would have been probably worth nowhere close to the $60,000 you had initially invested anyways.
Exactly. Unfortunately, they would have been diluted. And then the next point is really kind of early in my business journey, when I started taking online surveys to try to earn money. And, you see those things online and people say, look how I earn, an extra $2,000 or $3,000 a month just taking surveys. And I mean, that's not an extra $2,000. That's their full-time job. That's what I found out. Like, if you really want to make money from surveys, and hopefully you're in an unusual demographic, not like, a white male in his 20s, because that didn't work out too well for me. That was immediately disqualified for many of these surveys. Also, living in Canada, I think you can maybe earn a little bit of money in the States better, but you're also disqualified for many of these surveys and websites if you're a Canadian. So honestly, I think it's a waste of time. There's better ways to make money, and you can make higher leverage of your time.
No, for sure. And I think that kind of takes me back to an example that I know you like to use about the Instagram too, right? I think a lot of people try to rope you in with the way they comment on your pictures or likes and whatnot, like, right? And they'll say, hey, great job, buddy, I like that picture. And they say, check out my bio. And it's like, they'll try to, comment on yours just in hopes that maybe you'll come and take a look at theirs, right? And sometimes I don't mind. I'll take a quick look, especially if they tell me what I'm going to find on that bio and maybe how it might benefit us mutually. I might take a quick look at it, right? But if it's just random people, because most of them are just, Russian chicks on there for some reason that are liking my stuff, I guess.
Well, in the description, like, sometimes I'll ask 2 quick questions, and I'm just looking for like a quick response from people, and it's still the same thing, right? You get those happy faces and great and good job or whatever, or nice photo. You're like, yes, I know it's nice artwork. Which one do you like?
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? It probably works for a segment of the population, and they keep doing it, right? It may not work for our segment of the population, because we understand exactly what they're doing and the marketing tactic behind it is. But there's a huge part of the segment of this population that says, I'm going to click on any and everything. And we see that all the time, where people, get the email from the Russian prince that needs to move $20 million out of Nigeria, and they get roped into that too, right? Because they say, we can, you just have to give me $500 and I'll give you $20 million. So when you start seeing stuff like that, you should question it.
No doubt. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I think before you decide to go into business with anybody or a friend or by yourself, really take a look at what kind of business you're looking to get into, what kind of benefits are going to be in there for you, and maybe the other people who are going to be joining you or whatnot. Consider where you're buying products and why it's a good idea to buy there or not. Sometimes it is better to just pay full price versus getting a discount.
And I was just going to say, don't get too jaded about bad deals that you've been roped into. We've all been there. And so if you give up, I mean, that's where it ends, right? Especially in business. If you say, no more, I'm not going to let anybody tell me I can get into business any longer, then you're just, you're basically calling it quits on yourself instead of calling it quits on whatever business model that wasn't working that you were doing before.
Right on.
Well, this has been Using Your Power. You can find us at usingyourpower.com, where you can leave a comment or a message for us or download our free course as well. And you can also go to YouTube. We have our podcast up there. If you happen to be listening to us there, just leave a comment in the description, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Absolutely. And you can take us on the go on iTunes.
Thanks for listening.
Have a great day.